Hello everyone, welcome to our first Monday weekly coin news video. I've been out of the office, out of the shop all morning, so I've just raced in to get this done. Catherine's been here holding the fort, getting all the packaging done and getting all the new stock priced and put out into the shop. So welcome everyone who is joining us today. Say hello to a few people. Hello Aaron and Mitch and Josh and Kirker. Thank you for joining in. I hope you can all hear me okay. If someone can let me know if you can hear me. So last week in the shop was very busy. I think last week could well have been our busiest week in terms of both buying and selling. Thursday and Wednesday was very busy. We actually didn't manage to leave the shop to go and pick up our kids from school, so we had to do an emergency phone call to some grandparents to get that done for us, and thank you to my dad for doing that for me. And Thursday was pretty much the same as was Friday. Saturday was much more normal. We had quite a few regulars here on Saturday and had some nice chats with them, and that's why we like doing this, is to talk to coin collectors. I don't know if you saw some of the images that I posted up on Facebook last week, but we saw some really good errors coming in that people were showing us. It's always nice to see that sort of stuff. So I'll just say hello to some other people. So Danielle, hey Mark, I want to say thank you to you and Catherine. I made an order on Friday and today I got an email to let me know I got charged too much postage and was getting a refund for some of the postage. So yeah, thank you for that, Danielle. We do recognise that our website is sometimes overcharges a bit on postage, but Catherine is super careful to always make sure that people get that back. So I'm glad that she found that out this morning and let you know about that, and hopefully you get your order in the mail soon. Hello Alison, hi Alex, g'day Greg, welcome to everyone from the Gravy Train. Tony, did you win that sovereign? No. So again, if you follow us on Facebook, you would have seen a picture of a nice group of coins and banknotes on our front counter there. I asked everyone to tell me what they could see, and Tony decided that if he identified one, then he'd get to keep one of them. Unfortunately, no, that's not the case. Hello Gwen, hello Marie, and hello Sonia. And yeah, sorry Tony, life is hard. I don't get to keep it either, mate. So yeah, it's a bit disappointing. It is a nice sovereign. It's actually just around here somewhere. I just can't lay my eyes on it at the moment. So let's jump into coin news for the week. Now, I actually struggled a bit with this morning at home preparing for the video, but came up with a bit of stuff. There are no new RAM retail releases for May, so we can all have a breath about that and don't have to open up our wallets for new $2 coins or whatever. There will be some investment gold and silver releases, I believe, and we may end up having some of those, and they'll probably be available on the website in the next month or so. In international coin news, if you have been in and around coin collecting for a while, you may well have heard of the 1933 $20 double eagle, or St. Gordon's $20. It's a gold American coin. There were about 450,000 of them minted, and in 1933, when I think it's President Roosevelt passed the Gold Act, where you weren't allowed to own gold anymore in the USA, almost all of them were melted down. Less than 10 were not melted down. 2 went into a museum, and some of the others were actually stolen. Those have been, I believe, recovered over the years by the US Secret Service, but one of them actually got out of the country and into the collection of Egyptian King Farouk, who was one of the world's largest coin collectors in the 1930s, 40s and 50s. When King Farouk was deposed from his rulership of Egypt in a coup, the entire collection was sold off in an auction, and one of those, St. Gordon's, was in that auction. It was out of the reach of the US government, the US Secret Service, so there's been a series of legal battles about that coin. And a year or two ago, the US courts found that it was actually legal to own that coin, and now the single publicly available example of the 1933 double eagle has been certified and graded by PCGS, and for only the second time in their history they've actually certified it and graded it, but they haven't put it in a holder, which is interesting. I think the only other time they have done that was with a USA 1913 proof nickel, I think, don't quote me on that. Will come up for sale, I believe, in June this year or July this year, that 1933 $20 gold coin. If you want to own it, I believe you'll probably have to pay 10 to 15 million US dollars to buy it, but it is the only one that's available, so if you've got to have it, you've got to have it. So Mitch, that's an interesting question. Mitch is saying, why didn't they slab it? I think they're giving the new owner the opportunity to either get it graded or leave it the way it is. Given that it's such an iconic coin and, you know, it can be photographically proven that that is the only coin, I think PCGS has made a bit of an exception to it. But I believe that the current owners have prepaid PCGS to actually encapsulate it, and if the new owner of it decides to have it encapsulated, they can get that done with PCGS. Patrick is asking when we expect to get more Indigenous military service $2 coins. I don't know, Patrick. We've been told through back channels we may get some more from the mint, but we don't know when that's going to happen. And as soon as we have any news, we'll let you know about that. So there were a couple of news stories in the Australian media this week about the Australia going cashless, and the first one was interesting. It was looking at the Reserve Bank of Australia and looking at note usage, and apparently last calendar year the ATM withdrawals of the number of $5 and $10 notes in circulation dropped hugely, but, and this is really interesting, the number of publicly held $50 and $100 notes actually went up. So, as is fairly usual in times of crisis, people fall back onto things that they can trust: gold, silver, and cash. They don't necessarily trust the banks. According to the news article, there were 37 $50 notes in circulation for every man, woman, and child in Australia, and that is a lot of $50 notes. Just as the second point there about the media back on the cashless bandwagon, the ABC had a number of posts on social media this week asking people about whether they would go cashless and what they thought of it. I greatly believe that we will not go cashless at any point in the near future. I think there's two reasons for that. One is that there is an inherent distrust of rightly or wrongly, I don't really subscribe to Big Brother watching us, but you know, an inherent distrust of all transactions being electronic and the traceability of those, and perhaps there's a number of people in society who don't like the idea of that. The other reason is, of course, is that it has been proven over and over again that it is easier to manage your money when it's cash and it's not electronic. So there will always be groups of people in society who want to buy and sell in cash because it is easier to keep track of. We personally here in the store, you know, being coin collectors aside, we don't like it because it allows the banks to just inject themselves into the process and skim a bit of profit off of the top for effectively doing nothing. 1.5% on every electronic transaction we take through here, and given that it's all electronic and it's all automated, and it really grates on me that they charge for that, and no one wins. You don't win, you don't get things cheaper from us, and we don't win because, you know, we end up paying what a lot of the time is a big percentage of our profit to the bank. So, you know, no cashless for me. Aaron says thinks it'll be at least 10 years before we go cashless, and Paul says cash is king, and I agree with that, Paul. We will always take cash here in the shop. So we did buy a bunch of interesting stuff this week, and this came in on Saturday, and I was The anecdote that Catherine and I give is that, maybe one or two collections in 100 has something interesting in it. Most collections are just leftover holiday money or decimal coins, or while they're interesting for what they represent to the people, they are mostly contain common things. But this week we got a bag full of random pre-decimal coins, pennies, and fairly common things. But in there was a beautiful 1963 florin mistrike, which blew us away. And then a gentleman came out on Saturday and tipped out his money box, and he, in amongst it, was this puppy. Let's see if we can get the camera to focus on it there. So I'm sure you all know what that is. If you followed these videos for a while, you'll know what that is. So he was absolutely stoked. Amongst his $3.50 in face value and 4 pennies was a double-headed 2007 5-cent piece. He said that he just put the money here in the money box in Adelaide, and that just happened to be there amongst it. I nearly fell over when I saw it. It's always a real rush to see that sort of thing. So yeah, that was an interesting thing. This is the other thing that came in. We got a pair of these this week. So I'm not going to take this one out of the holder because I don't want to, it's too big to take out, but I'm sure that you can see what that is there as I tilt it backwards and forwards. So we'll cover off on this in a minute in more detail, but that is, of course, is a 1967 Goose dollar, and we'll just go into what they are in a minute. So we'll just read it through a few more comments here. Brendan says you can't get your lawn mowed by the kid next door without cash. That's exactly right. You're not going to pay him with FPOS. And Josh says at the start of the pandemic, his wife and he tried to withdraw $10,000 of our own money and the bank refused us. They said we have to withdraw over a few days. So that is fairly common policy, Josh. Certainly our bank has a policy of no more than $5,000 withdrawn over the counter unless you've pre-ordered the cash. And yes, that's all the comments there. Now let's have a look at the Goose dollar. We'll just jump over to the Goose dollar. There we go there. So if you've been in and around coin collecting for a while, you've probably heard of or at least seen some of these things here. They're called Goose dollars. What they are is, it's actually not a goose, it's a swan. So that's what the technical name is, a 1967 swan fantasy or pattern dollar. Now, the distinction between whether it's a fantasy or a pattern is a bit of a fine line. The background to this this item is that when we were going over to decimal currency, in the lead up to that in 1965, there was a bit of a kickback from the Australian public that Australia was worthy of having a crown-sized silver coin in their circulation currency. So the Americans, for example, still had the 50 cent and the $1, the silver dollar. England had the crowns. They still were like issuing crowns, not for currency but for collections and things like that. And perhaps some in the Australian public were feeling a bit insecure, and they felt like that there should be a crown-sized dollar. The government didn't listen to that, of course, but the coin magazine at the time, Australian Coin Review, or ACR, actually held a competition, and they invited people to send in designs for a proposed Australian crown-sized dollar coin. And the winner was designed by well-known Hungarian sculptor Andor Mazaros, and the magazine ended up getting some of the pattern coins minted by John Pinch's medalists in London, and they minted the coin in 3 different types. You're just going to have to excuse me because I'm going to sneeze. Okay, I'm back. They minted them in silver and gold. The silver was minted in two conditions. There was what they called an uncirculated example and a proof example. The uncirculated example had a reeded edge. Thank you, everyone. Bless me. Thank you. I didn't think you needed to. I'll just make sure the microphone's back on. It is. I think that you needed to hear that. The uncirculated example had a reeded edge. The proof example has a plain edge. The proof example has something of a cameo finish. So, there's a frosted. The devices are frosted, but I wouldn't say that it is the sort of frosting that we see on proof sets today. But they're quite dissimilar, the two types of coins. 150, 1,500 uncirculated examples struck in silver, 750 proof examples struck in silver, and 10 gold examples struck. Now, they were issued in a maroon coloured box. The proof box there was words under the lid. The proof box had the same words as the uncirculated example, except for the addition of the word proof. The gold ones, it's believed that there are only 7 or 8 left in existence of the 10 because 2 or 3 were lost in bushfires in Adelaide in the early 1980s. Now, what do they sell for? Well, they were originally released for, you can see the prices there, $10, and the proof was released for $13.50. I don't know what the gold one was released for. We've never been able to find any information on that, but if anyone knows, I would be super interested to hear what the gold one was released for. There's the coin there. What are they worth these days? $1,500 to $2,500, $3,000, and that seems to be fairly consistent over whether it's a. What's the weight on the gold one? You're going to have to just bear with me, Brendan. I'll talk and look that up at the same time. It doesn't seem to be much of a price distinction between the proof and the uncirculated, despite the fact that the mintages were quite different. The boxes themselves are quite valuable. The boxes themselves can be worth anywhere from $200 to $400. There are a lot more coins around than boxes. Funnily enough, I think a lot of the boxes must have got tossed and the coins kept. If I was buying one of these, I would be extraordinarily careful about who I was buying it from, because there are a lot of fakes around, and I have seen several dozen sell on eBay that are fakes, and the fakes are reasonably convincing. So what does that mean? It means try to look for one in an NGC or PCGS slab. Make sure you check the certification number to make sure that the slab is genuine as well, or try to buy one off of a reputable source, so whether that be a dealer or a advanced collector who knows what they are doing. Other things to look out for is quite often the one side is hairlined, especially if they've been, and this is common for all coins that sit in cases. It's quite common for one side to have hairlines on it because perhaps it got dusted or people just touch it or whatever it is. So do watch out for excessive hairlining on them. The best ones, the ones that pull the strongest prices, have attractive toning, colourful toning. I'm not sure what the fineness of the silver of them is, but they do tone very colourfully. We have had some absolute crackers that have just the most amazing colourful toning on them. If you do look at a toned one, make sure that the toning has eye appeal. You don't want spots or anything that's unattractive that will hold it back. And failing toning, look for a blast white one that hasn't been dipped but is in sort of the original untoned condition. And I would suggest this is something that you would want. I'd prefer to have it graded for authenticity reasons and to protect the coin. Now, who asked? I think it was Brendan Aliff. What is the weight on the gold one? Right. So the gold one was 22 carat, and it weighed 40.3 grams. The silver ones weigh 28.7 grams. So 40.3 grams is about 1 1/3 ounces of gold. Now, the last time I saw a gold one sell, it was about $20,000. So if you want one of those, you need to pony up for them. So that's the Goose dollar. Josh says here that the rumour is that one of the gold ones was lost in the 2011 Brisbane flood. I hadn't heard that one before. G'day, Mike. So that's the Goose dollar. Interesting coin. Fantasy, is it a fantasy or a pattern? I think it's a fantasy because I think a pattern needs to be designed by an official minting body. Those who are wondering, a pattern is a proposed design for a coin that a mint creates as a proposal for a design. Given that this one wasn't designed or executed by an official minting body, I lean towards more of a fantasy, and a fantasy is a coin or metal that I guess is an idealization of something that never happened. But regardless of what you call it, very popular coins, very desirable and highly sought after. If you do see one and you can afford it and it's in good nick, I would definitely grab one. So that's it for today. If anyone has any questions, I'll just give you 30 seconds to ask any questions you might have. If not, we'll be back same time next week. As always, we're looking for subject material to put in these videos. We did have someone ring us during the week with a suggestion, and thank you for that. I wasn't able to find anything that was useful, so I haven't decided to go with that. Unfortunately, I don't know everything. I can't find everything. So, if you do have any other questions, send us a message, email us, give us a phone call, whatever that happens to be. Don't forget, all these videos are up on our YouTube channel within a day or so, and there is the odd video up on YouTube that we don't put on Facebook. So go and have a look there and subscribe over there as well. Thank you, everyone. Have a good week. Happy collecting. Don't get caught in the hype. Remember, don't overpay for things, and we will see you same time next week.